Final break.
Based on his personality, what kind of bug would you compare your husband to? Tasha.
A roach.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
The ruling JLP and opposition PNP are at daggers drawn over the contents of the Integrity Commission's report into the statutory declarations of Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Both parties are fighting hard to have the public interpret, consume, and digest the contents of the report in a particular way. I asked two political analysts this evening for their views on how the public should interpret the totality of what the IC has said about Mr. Holness's declarations and the fact that they have yet to be certified. This is Lead Story on this Friday. Let's start the show. Welcome to Lead Story on this Friday. So good to have you as per usual. Now, in case you've been under a rock, and even if you've been there, some information would have percolated beneath to tell you that the two political parties have been going at it hard since Tuesday's tabling in the House of Representatives. That report prepared by the Integrity Commission into the statutory declarations of the Prime Minister Andrew Holness. The PNP say the concerns raised in the report mean Holness must go. They say the fact that the FID and TAJ have been asked by the Integrity Commission to look into further aspects of the report mean that the Prime Minister ought properly to vacate his chair, given that he should not be anywhere near where those investigations are happening. Neither of those investigations have started yet. The TAJ have said, well, even if they've started an investigation, they wouldn't tell the public, and the FID says it has to review the material presented to it to determine what, if anything, it will do on the matter. Meanwhile, the ruling JLP is saying that their man is clean, that he has proven his integrity. They've refuted strongly that he lied to the public on August 17 when he said he did not know that he or anybody else, for that matter, was under investigation for illicit enrichment, and they are threatening to sue anyone who repeats what they consider to be spurious allegations. We're going to have a package for you right at the top of the show to set the context for the discussion that we intend to have any moment now. So let's get that context setter for today's discussion. IC versus AMH.
The parliamentary elections are due in 2025, and the country has been edging towards the heightened political season. Well, for political observers, it's out of the frying pan and into the fire. The recent tabling of the Integrity Commission report has turned up the political temperature. The IC report focused on the Prime Minister and leader of the JLP, Andrew Holness, and his statutory declarations. The report raised questions surrounding movement of monies within bank accounts associated with Holness, conflict of interest matters regarding the appointment of the Prime Minister's business associate being appointed to the boards of the Housing Authority of Jamaica and the Urban Development Corporation, and the alleged inability of the Prime Minister to explain increases in his net worth. On Tuesday, soon after the report was tabled, the Prime Minister launched his defense against the allegations in the report.
Let it be known that I have complied with any obligation placed on me within the law. As far as I am aware, the company with which I am directly associated is compliant and up to date with its filings.
Soon after, the opposition attempted to speak, but it was to be Wednesday before the PNP took to the microphone as they called a press briefing at which they demanded the resignation of the PM. Well, Mr. Holness has not taken up that offer, but it is his colleagues who have held steadfast in their no to the opposition's call. The Caucus of Government Senate penned their open support for the Prime Minister, who would have appointed them. But the story grew political legs when the Prime Minister threatened legal action towards the members of the PNP, whom he believes impugned his character. The opposition, well, they registered their defiance in a release, essentially saying they will not be deterred in doing their job. Sounds like the plot of a delicious Shonda Rhimes series. Well, expect more plot twists and arcs. Lights, camera, elections. Keeping up with Belmont and Hope Road.
Thank you, Miss Kelly. I think my producer watches too many films. Let's take the first break here on Lead Story. Back with more after these.
Never feel we culture, yo.
New beginning, we winning, so share our spirit where you living, yeah.
Share it.
I make we all a one bar, you don't know we come from far.
From far, anytime we rep, feel we country. Real rum, it have to come with me.
No matter with the bad vibes.
Poor real rum, a celebration time. Real rum.
I feel we culture.
Real rum.
Make we show ya. Jamaican culture.
And if you overproof from, we just have to do it to we culture.
Juicy, crunchy, irresistible taste of a KFC big deal, some people will do anything. KFC, it's finger licking good.
Welcome back to Lead Story on this Friday. So again, we're going to faces that you're familiar with, voices that you are growing to respect by the episode. Sandra Roden is with me, waiting for Roger Ben to join us. Roger is on the phone. He should have been here in studio, but the traffic on this Friday is crippling. Gentlemen, well, Roger, are you there? Good afternoon. Good evening, rather.
Hey, George, greetings.
Good.
I'm here.
You're here. Excellent. Sandra is with me here. So let me start with you, Sandra. Listen. Both the government and the opposition have been working very hard, over time some would say, to convince the public to think a particular way, to interpret for them what is in the report and to say, public, believe that this is the truth. The government, in counterbalancing the opposition narrative, have been doing the same. You know very well, if you put 10 lawyers in a room with one issue, you're going to get 15 different opinions from the 10 lawyers. And so we've heard lawyers opining about the contents of the report and offering different perspectives from the same legislation that they've all read. I say all that to ask, in this political aspect of the Integrity Commission report, who do you think is influencing the public in the way they want the public to think better?
Wow, that is a tough one, George. And I say that's a tough one because I think back on the polls that we've seen over the years, and when I like to read about the political history of Jamaica, and you see that corruption has always been an issue, but corruption is also an issue that a lot of Jamaicans don't necessarily vote on.
Absolutely. I was going to say that.
So why? Why do Jamaicans, not vote on corruption? That is because, and I've said it even on this platform, that's because if I can go to tax office and my cousin, for example, is a cashier at tax office. Before my cousin goes to work, I would want to be able to tell my cousin, say, I'm coming at X time, and I can go at the front of the line. It goes all the way back to high school. When people would say, you have a friend in the line and you skip the line, etc. It's not, other societies, those things aren't really condoned, yeah? And we look at Singapore, for example, and in our society, people don't really vote on that. So then the messaging from the People's National Party, the opposition, is normally a stronger message. Why? Because it is opposing the system. And we have grown to believe, especially as people of color, over time, that we should be against the system. And that message is always a stronger message. It's like in every show you watch, whether it's Wakanda, whether it's, some movies around the CIA and all those things, it's always against the system. So that's always a strong message. But now, when we look at the parallels across the world, use the US, for example, they're saying a fight for hope, and then they're just people who just blankly support Donald Trump. I think you can draw parallels there, because the opposition, People's National Party, is saying, listen, because of these question marks, and I like to call it straight, it's gray areas.
Yes.
They're arguing over gray areas in the public domain. There's no defined anything at this point. Right? Yes. So we're arguing over gray areas. So the opposition is saying, resign over these gray areas. The government is saying, it's gray.
Yeah.
Where our leader is going nowhere.
Which is why it's a natural question to ask you first up. So you need to answer, Ms. Andre, who is winning this battle?
I think none of them are winning just yet. I think it's a stalemate. And why I tell you it's a stalemate is because when you look at the traction of both messages, it's reaching the same audience. As a matter of fact, people are a little bit confused in the same way I would say constitutional reform became confusing a couple months ago, because the opposition, they came out like this, they came out with a bang, and then you're like, what's the government going to do? And then you see Senator Shireen Golding Campbell go out, and you see the senators releasing their message. And we have to remember that politics is an influence game. Yes. And I want Roger to come in there, because I want to leave it at that. Politics is an influence game. And for now, I haven't seen who has edged out yet, but I think the opposition has come out strong, but the government is rebuffing really strong as well.
Roger Bend, it is a perception war being fought using all the resources that the respective parties have. Does anyone in this battle have an edge?
Boy, George, I came fully prepared to disagree with Sandre this evening, but on his first conversation, I have to agree with the fact that it's good political theater, but at the end of the day, it's a finger pointing game, and I don't think at this point necessarily that you're seeing a clear winner, right? Maybe in another couple of days things may change, but I don't necessarily think that we're seeing a clear winner right now. And I think that's really the heart of the issue in terms of whether or not people are tuning in to any one political party. We know for a fact that for the most part, Jamaicans are really entertained right now. It's a soap opera. And I think that's the sad part about it, because instead of the real issues that could come out of these kinds of reports, what we're really focusing on now is the high drama. And that's something that we have to change. That's something we have to grow beyond, because it's obviously not good for democracy as a whole.
Yeah, Roger, here's the thing though. In COVID-19, one of the problems with the government's messaging to vaccinate was because there were doctors saying don't take the vaccine. There were experts. So usually say if a doctor says so, so. In this instance of the Prime Minister's statutory declarations, there are lawyers telling you to, no, interpret it this way. And then there are other lawyers telling you, no, interpret it that way. Do you think the public is properly confused at this point?
Of course, the public is confused. And I think that part of the dance is really what it's all about. That's how political spinners begin to do their work. So, of course, I think that's a part of the process. There's not enough information. There are different varying versions of the information. And to be honest, the question I'd like to ask is, do we really want to get the truth?
That's a question. Hold it right there, Roger. Let's take the second and final break, and come right back. We're talking about the political side of this Integrity Commission report into the Prime Minister's statutory declarations. We've spent so much time going through the details of the report. A lot of heavy lifting has happened since Tuesday, and we want to look at the raw politics of the matter. And we're doing that right now. More after this.
Attention PATH beneficiaries. As we gear up for the new school year, many families are understandably concerned about educational expenses. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security is fully aware of these concerns and has made provisions to support you and your children with back-to-school expenses. In addition to their regular PATH benefit payment in August, eligible families received a back-to-school grant of $3,500 for each child enrolled in a government school from grades 1 to 13. Remember, if your child is transferring to a new school, you must visit the ministry's office in your parish to inform us and avoid any disruption to your benefits. Together, let us create a brighter future for our children through PATH, advancing your family, developing Jamaica. For further information, visit the ministry's website, mlss.gov.jm, or call our customer contact center 876-922-8000-13. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, the People's Ministry, providing opportunity, stability, and social protection.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
You! Come and pick up your order.
Oh, okay.
For the juicy, crunchy, irresistible taste of a KFC Big Deal, some people will do anything.
Ray and Never, feel we culture. Yo!
New beginning, we winning, so share our spirit where you're living, yeah.
Share it.
I make we all a one bar, you don't know we come from far.
From far, anytime we rep, feel we country. Real rum, it have to come with me.
No matter with the bad vibes.
Poor real rum, a celebration time. Real rum.
I feel we culture.
Real rum.
Make we show ya Jamaican culture.
Ray and Never, overproof from we just have to do with culture.
Make a move now, make a move now.
Hi everyone, my name is Kurt Dunn.
Greetings from Kali's Kelly Yoga.
Hey, it's Travel Morrison, and I am your National Physical Activity Specialist. And it's time to make a move.
Jamaica, let's get moving again. Season 2 of the Ministry of Health and Wellness Jamaica Move series is here. Join us Wednesdays at 5 a.m. and Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on CVM TV. Let's get moving.
Make a move now.
Based on his personality, what kind of bug would you compare your husband to? Tasha.
A roach.
Welcome back to Lead Story on CVM TV. All right, with the time we have left, we're going to go right hard all the way to the end. Roger Bent has joined us on set in studio. All right, gentlemen, so here's the thing. So we've agreed that the public is properly confused given all the opinions swirling around about this report. So therefore, the other question is this. Sandra, let me start with you. Did the Prime Minister, speaking in his own defense on Tuesday, have an effect on how the public are digesting the report?
I think definitely it is a phenomenon that I thought about a couple months ago to say, why is some of the messaging from the opposition leader not really resonating? And then I was like, well, if you think about it, when Portia Simpson-Miller was Prime Minister, her message obviously resonated more because the platform and because people do anticipate that very important messaging comes from that platform. His platform was used in Parliament, and they went for the provision in the standing orders wherein it's a personal statement. And
which was proper to do.
Which was proper to do, and there is no debate over it. I think that in and of itself and what his messaging was, his messaging spoke to, and this is why it becomes even more confusing, his messaging spoke to the idea of making it from nothing and the idea of becoming something and the idea further to say that they don't want me to make something of myself, which is why they're trying to nitpick. And the reason why his messaging might have an effect on people, on common people, is because you look at there's a juxtaposition beside the opposition leader who is a successful white
to the manner
businessman,
born. To the manner born, yes.
Right, and then becomes a lawyer studying in the very UK, which he has his citizenship. I'm not sure if it had his citizenship, right? And then he comes up, becomes a businessman. There is the allegations, of course, of the sweetheart deal. You know, that juxtaposition, his messaging, if digested properly, can have that effect.
Roger, same question for you.
I don't think I agree. I think if the Prime Minister was thinking strategy, I think he would have sought to spin or to prepare the public in a better way than he did. For several months he denied it, and then now you get a chance to speak to the nation via Parliament, but one gets the impression that it's a rather defensive speech. I'm defending myself, rather than you could have been proactive in trying to find ways around explaining why I would be under investigation, because obviously at some point the Prime Minister would have known that this thing is going to come out. I don't think he comes out looking good on this side. To the extent that it may have serious damage to his reputation, I can't say. But I think at this moment, given the swirling of information that is coming out, I think he looks rather defensive. I don't think you want to be looking defensive at this point.
On a matter like this, Roger, for those political animals and Jamaicans broadly who aren't committed to either party, but they're just listening and acting on what they see, hear, and feel, how should they digest the PNP's approach, given that they know that the PNP, like any political party, is about state power, and what they say is to ensure that their opponents are so damaged that state power falls into their laps?
I thought about that, even during the whole process, and I was thinking, be careful of the message. That's what I thought about, because invariably political parties, whether the PNP or the JLP, have had their shares of scandal.
For sure.
And it's not going to be the first time or the last time that political parties are going to be involved. Maybe it's the first that the political leader is at the center of the scandal, but it's not the first that political parties have been. Given the precedent set here and the ways, the evasive nature of the investigation, it then sets up other ministers and prime ministers for that kind of invasion. And then the question is, who else will stand the scrutiny over time? So even as much as the opposition now can confidently point finger, they must be careful as well in terms of when the fingers begin to point back to them, whether or not they're going to be also the ones now scurrying to be defensive.
The old adage of knife and sheep and goat and stick and who. Here's the thing now, Sandre. The Integrity Commission has a lot of critics right now, especially those who view things through the JLP lens. Is the fact that the TAJ and the FID are poised to continue with this investigation, opening up the leaders of those entities to the same thing the Integrity Commission is facing now in terms of a jaundiced view of how they do their work? Because if they probe, you're going to hear that they're PNP, because that's why they're probing. If they don't probe, you're hearing that they're Labourite, that's why they're not probing.
Well, I was thinking from the start of this conversation to go all the way back. Roger said something about political theatre, and I want to just piggyback on that.
To answer the question.
Well. The narrative of how we got here is what we have to look at. The People's National Party used this ominous report that is going to come out as political football from the onset. Yes? And they ensure they declared none of our MPs, none of our, we are clean. Now, I'm not saying that they aren't clean. We don't know. But the problem is, if we value and we celebrate and we put that type on the pedestal that I see as it should be, as it really should be, it shouldn't have gotten there. But then we go further. The Jamaica Labour Party went in Parliament and they started to throw licks left, right and centre, even the committee, and then Ed Bartlett had to step in. And that is where the problem started. So now when we get to this point, now people are going to say, the FID, but in the act itself, it says that they can speak to anybody. And they also came out and said we did speak to the FID. So now the question is, why this open-ended question of, oh, okay, so we can't charge him for that, but let's refer this to the FID, let's refer this to the TAJ, then you question now, is it that what the JLP members are saying about, some questionable characters being at the interior, is it true? And I don't think we should have gotten to that point because they should have been above scrutiny, above the political frame. I feel like that's just a slippery slope, as Roger said, and we don't want to go there.
So, Roger, here's this question now. Why is it that certain actors in this soap opera have sought to minimize the black and white in the report and instead ask us to think heavily about the gray? The black and white is that for all that the Integrity Commission found, only one thing rose to the point of a charge being suggested. That suggestion was made, the suggestion was knocked back. Why is it that we're being asked not to accept that the charge was recommended and the recommendation was knocked back? Instead, focus on the things that we can't speak on conclusively.
Well, that's where the drama takes place, and that's where the mystery is. As we try now to, in the court of public opinion, as we now try to figure out illicit enrichment and what that means and entails and who may be involved. That's a part of the drama. In other words, the black and white conversation has ended. The greys have just begun. And I think that is really what is important for political mileage.
Yes. So, Sondre, same question for you. We've been asked to ignore the fact that there's no charge against the Prime Minister.
Right, gray
and focus instead on the grey area.
Right, the grey area is, as Rhoda said, where you find the real meat in the matter, where the opposition can say, this is the grey area, explain it to us. But then on the other side of things, the Prime Minister could be saying, but I submitted all my personal matters, and why do I need to make all my personal matters public? But at the end of the day, it's public scrutiny, and any leader has that responsibility to let his constituents, which would be all Jamaicans, all 3 million plus people, know and understand why it is that there was a grey area in the first place, and that's where the water gets muddy.
The stakes are incredibly high in this political matter. The PNP are adamant that they found the Prime Minister's Achilles heel, and they are hacking away at it by the minute. The JLP have shown signs that they're going to be pugnacious in this one. They are going to fight. They are going to defend their corner and defend their man. And at the end of the day, we, the public, will be asked to make an important decision to answer a very important question. In all of this, until the FID and TAJ rule, that's if